Number 3. Jill and Julie Hansen. In 1986, 16-year-old identical twins Jill and Julie Hansen lived with their parents, Betty and Hans, in the small logging town of Willow Creek, California. Hans sold logging supplies, and the family lived in a mobile home beside his warehouse. The twins were considered shy and kind, and they tended to befriend people who were considered underdogs. On the night of November 14, 1986, their 21-year-old half-brother, Donnie, was spending the night. Donnie lived in nearby Fortuna, and he was sleeping on the couch in the living room, while Jill and Julie shared a bed in one of the bedrooms. At 3 a.m., their mother Betty, who was asleep in the master bedroom, suddenly awoke. She smelled smoke, so she woke up her husband, Hans. They opened the door of their bedroom and found the mobile home on fire. Hans tried to put the fire out with an extinguisher. Betty ran down the hallway to warn her children to get out of the home. She first passed Donnie, who was in the living room, and he was yelling at someone to get out. She didn't stop to see who he was yelling at, and she kept making her way towards the twins' bedroom. But she couldn't get to their door because the fire was too intense. For her own safety, she got out of the mobile home. Hans was forced to run outside, and just outside the door, he tripped over an empty gas can. Hans ran to the warehouse, and he got a ladder. He smashed the twins' window with the top of the ladder, and he tried to look in their room. But the room was completely engulfed in flames. Betty and Hans continued to try to put out the fire with fire extinguishers from the warehouse, and then Donnie came to help them. Betty and Hans asked him if he saw anyone in or around the home before the fire started, and he said he didn't. 15 minutes after the fire started, the fire department arrived. Sadly, there were no signs of the 16-year-old twin girls, and it was assumed that they didn't make it out of the home. Then some neighbors found a crumpled body lying in a vacant lot across the road from the home. It was Julie. She was alive, but she was bleeding from a gaping hole in her abdomen. She was rushed to the hospital. After she was found, Donnie said that he was the one who got her out of the home. The immediate thought was that Julie was hit in the abdomen by debris because of an explosion during the fire. She was taken in for surgery, and that's when the doctors made a shocking discovery. Julie had been shot with a shotgun. She ultimately survived her surgery. The fire department put out the fire, and sadly, in the burned out shell, they found Jill's remains. The medical examiner concluded that Jill had been shot to death with a shotgun. The girl's parents, Hans and Betty, were stunned because they didn't hear any gunshots. In the ruins of the home, the investigators found a second gas can and 3 shells from a 12-gauge shotgun. The police searched Hans's warehouse, and hidden behind some boxes, they found a shotgun that was later determined to be the murder weapon. 2 days after the fire, early in the morning, a police officer caught someone trying to get into the warehouse. That person was the twins' half-brother, Donnie. He claimed he was going into the warehouse to feed the family's dog. But the police knew that Donnie was aware that the dog was at a neighbor's home. The police concluded that his real intention was to get into the warehouse and retrieve the gun because he didn't realize that they had already found it. The police found out that Donnie had borrowed the gun from a friend 3 days before the shooting. The police took a look at Donnie's credit card statements. 2 days before the fire, he bought 5 gallons of gas, and witnesses said that he put the gas in a tank that looked like the one that Hans tripped over. Then, the night before the murder, Donnie bought the shells that were used to shoot the twins. 2 weeks after the fire, Julie was doing better, and she started talking to her parents about what happened. She said she was sleeping on the side of the bed furthest away from the door. She was awoken by a sound, and she crawled over her sister, who was still asleep in the bed. She then walked out into the hallway that led to the living room where Donnie was sleeping. At first, Julie said that she didn't see the shooter. She just saw a flash of light, and she thought that there had been an explosion. She put her hands to her abdomen, and she said it felt like a bowl of jelly. Sometime later, Julie supposedly told her parents that before the flash, she saw Donnie's face. However, no one else, like the police or the hospital staff, heard her say she saw Donnie before she was shot. Around the same time that Julie started talking, Donnie sat down and talked to the police. He swore he was innocent. He said he didn't hear any gunshots, and when he woke up, the home was on fire. The police asked him if he moved the gun, and he admitted it. Then they asked him why he moved it. He told the police he hid the gun because he knew if they found it, they would assume he was the shooter. The police thought that this was a strange reason because no one knew that the girls had been shot until Julie was at the hospital. So why would he have hidden the gun before anyone knew the twins had been shot? Donnie took 2 polygraph tests, and both times it was determined that he was not telling the truth. After the interview and the polygraph test, the police arrested Donnie. The prosecutors felt like they had a solid case, even if they didn't have any physical evidence, like Donnie's prints on the gun. What they did know was that Donnie brought the murder weapon to the crime scene, and he also bought the ammunition and the gas. Also, Julie was planning on testifying. But on December 19, 1987, 13 months after the fire, something happened that rocked the case and devastated the Hansen family even more. Julie was killed in a freak medical accident. An air bubble entered her bloodstream through an IV, and this caused her to go into cardiac arrest. Since she was dead, anything she said before she died couldn't be used in court. Nevertheless, the district attorney still felt that they had a strong case. At his trial, Donnie's lawyer pointed out that he didn't have a motive to kill his twin sisters. His lawyer also had 2 neighbors testify. The neighbors said that at 3 a.m., while the fire was raging, they saw 2 men who were strangers near the family's mobile home. His lawyer contended that the pair of unidentified men were the killers. They simply found the gun and the gas tank when they got to the mobile home. They entered the home through a sliding glass door, and then they started to pour gasoline around the home. This woke Julie up, and she got out of bed. She was then shot in the stomach in the hallway. The intruders started the fire, and then they shot Jill as she lay asleep in her bed. The prosecutors said that scenario was incredibly unlikely. For example, why would a shooter go into the bedroom to kill Jill in bed but leave Donnie alive? The prosecution said most criminals bring weapons to the crime scene, and they just don't show up and hope to find weapons. Also, what are the odds that, in the dark, random strangers found the gun, the ammo, and the gas can full of gas, all of which Donnie had brought to the home hours earlier? In the end, the jury believed Donnie's defense, and he was acquitted. After the acquittal, Donnie moved away from that area of California, and he changed his name. When he was interviewed in November 1993 for the television show Unsolved Mysteries, he maintained his innocence. However, his story had changed. He had a new reason for moving the gun. He said that even though the home was burning down, he was worried that someone would steal the gun. Both Betty and Hans think that Donnie is responsible for the deaths of Julie and Jill. They think he either did the shooting or arranged the shooting. Since Donnie was acquitted, even if new evidence turns up that proves he was involved in the shooting and the fire, he can't be retried for murder because that would be double jeopardy. Donnie's current identity and his whereabouts are unknown. Number 2. The Princeton Angels. On October 9, 1993, a 16-year-old boy was in Allison Lake National Park, which is 17 miles north of the small town of Princeton, British Columbia. He was near a set of outhouses when he realized he misplaced his hunting knife. It then dawned on him that he may have dropped it down into the pit of the outhouse. Probably thinking that his day couldn't get much worse, he looked down into the pit. He didn't see his knife. Instead, he saw the bodies of 2 babies wrapped in black garbage bags. The police were called and they took the outhouse apart to retrieve the bodies. The infants were twin girls. They were just a few hours old when they died. The umbilical cords and placentas were still attached. They both weighed 6 pounds and they were healthy. There were no signs of trauma, and the girls were alive when they were wrapped up and dropped into the outhouse pit. If someone had taken care of the twins, then they would have lived. The medical examiner doesn't think that the twins were in the outhouse pit for more than a week. The police thought it would be easy to track down the mother, who very well could have been the person who killed the twins, or at the very least, knew who the killer was. All they had to do was find a woman who had recently given birth to twins and no longer had the twins. The police looked at the birth records for all the babies born in British Columbia around the time that the twins were born and killed, and all the mothers who had given birth to twins were able to show that their kids were alive. The obvious answer is that she gave birth outside of British Columbia. However, the closest Canadian city outside of British Columbia is nearly 400 miles away from where the bodies were found, which would take nearly 7 hours to drive. Since the babies were killed a few hours after they were born, it doesn't seem likely that they were born in a hospital in a different province. But it is possible that the twins were born in the United States. Their bodies were found about 90 miles away from the Canadian-American border. But why would a woman give birth to twins, then leave the hospital, possibly within a couple hours of giving birth, then travel 2 hours into a foreign country so that she could dump her live and healthy babies into a pit in an outhouse in a provincial park? This has led to speculation that the woman didn't give birth with the help of a medical professional. The police also aren't sure if the mother was the killer. They think it's possible that she is also a victim in the crime. The police are looking for 2 couples that were in the area around the time the bodies were found. One couple was seen 5 days before the bodies were found in a town called Aspen Grove, which is about 20 miles from the outhouse. The couple was seen arguing near a payphone. The man was described as being about 20 years old. He had blonde hair and a slim build. The woman was 18 to 20 years old. She was 5'3", and she also had blonde hair. The woman was also very pregnant. They were driving a white car with round headlights. In the back seat of their car, they had boxes, and the boxes were covered with a blue tarp. Another suspicious car that people saw in the area was a red 1980s compact car. The back windows of the car were covered in blankets. No one got a good look at the driver and passenger, but they were a man and a woman. Sadly, 25 years later, the twin girls have yet to be identified. The police are concerned about the well-being of the mother. The police are hoping that someone knows something about the mother and they will come forward so that this mystery can finally be put to rest. Number 1. Peggy and Patty McDaniel. Peggy and Patty McDaniel are fraternal twins who were born in 1962 in Florida. When they were born, they were deprived of oxygen, and this resulted in a mild mental disability in both twins. Their parents got divorced, and the twins went to live in New Jersey with their mother, Joyce Ravizio. When the twins got into their late teens, their mother wanted them to be more independent of each other. So when the twins were 17 years old, Peggy was sent to live with her father and stepmother in Live Oak, Florida. But Peggy and Patty were soon lonely without each other. In 1 month, they ran up a $300 phone bill. So in early 1979, Patty moved to Live Oak so she could be with her sister. While they were living in Live Oak, they befriended a 19-year-old man named Marvin Warren. In the summer of 1979, without letting their parents know, the twins moved in with Warren and his 37-year-old friend, Eddie Gross. They moved into an apartment in Pompano Beach, Florida, which is about 365 miles away from Live Oak. The apartment was rented under Gross's name. A few weeks after moving in with the men, the twins wrote to their mother in New Jersey, asking for help. They did not give a number to call, but they did give a mailing address. The mailing address was their apartment. Their mother wrote back and told them to go to the airport and call her collect. She wrote that she would arrange a flight for them to New Jersey. Unfortunately, they never called. On September 11, 1979, Peggy went to the police station in Fort Lauderdale, which is just south of Pompano Beach. She filed a missing persons report because Patty had been missing for 2 days. The next day, Peggy canceled the missing persons report because Patty had been found alive and well. The day after that, a 25-year-old friend of the twins, Nelson George Johnson, confronted Eddie Gross. He accused Gross of hiding Peggy during the time that she was missing. The next night, which was September 15th, Johnson planned to take Peggy and Patty to a disco. They were planning on meeting another man, but his identity is unknown. 4 days after Johnson picked up Patty and Peggy to take them to the disco, the police were called to a tire store not far from the disco. Behind the store, a car was found with a body in the trunk. The car belonged to Nelson George Johnson, and it was his body in the trunk. He had been shot once in the shoulder, 3 times in the chest, and once in the head with a .22 caliber gun. He had been dead for about 4 days, and he was dressed like he was going to a disco. A briefcase and $1,100 was missing from Nelson's car. Peggy and Patty McDaniel were nowhere to be found. The police interviewed Gross, and he said he hadn't seen the twins since a week before Nelson was killed. He said they got into some stranger's car, and he didn't know where they went. But the police knew he was lying, because they knew the twins were living with him until September 15th, which was the night that Nelson was killed. Gross allowed the police to look around the apartment, but they found no trace of the twins. It was as if they never lived there. The police never arrested Gross in connection with the murder of Johnson or the disappearance of the twins. The police's original theory was that Peggy and Patty witnessed Johnson's murder, and then they were killed by the same person or people who killed him. Then 2 months after the twins disappeared, there was a strange twist in the case. There was a break-in at the home of the twins' father. The only thing that was stolen was the twins' winter clothes. This led the police to think that the twins were alive and possibly heading to New Jersey. Joyce, the mother of the twins, doesn't think it was the twins who took the clothes. She pointed out that the twins had keys to their father's home, so why would they need to break in? Also, they had most of their winter clothes in their mother's home in New Jersey, so why would they take clothes from their father's home? Instead, she thinks that the killer, or killers, broke into the house and stole the clothes to make it look like the twins were still alive. Their mother believes that Eddie Gross, possibly with the assistance of Marvin Warren, killed Peggy, Patty, and Nelson George Johnson. In the years after the twins' disappearance, Gross was in and out of prison. It's believed that Gross is now dead. Sadly, no trace of Peggy and Patty McDaniel has ever been found. Thanks a lot for watching today's video. Hopefully you found it interesting. If you did, please give us a thumbs up and subscribe for more videos just like it. Also, please go to criminallylisted.com where you can suggest cases, buy merch, and find out about an exclusive podcast. But that's all for today. Thanks again for watching.